We're live on the Smart Connected group and also the Smart Connected podcast. I've got a wonderful guest for you tonight, Akhtar Khan. Welcome, Akhtar.
Hi, Jane. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here, Akhtar. Now, Akhtar and I have known each other for a few years. And Akhtar he has a business called Reaching Excellence. He's a Reaching Excellence coach and mentor who helps entrepreneurs in property and other sectors be the very best versions of themselves, which is something that is a topic that's very close to my own heart. So in the interview tonight, we're going to go do a deep dive on what reaching excellence actually is. And we're going to find out a little bit more about Akhtar and about how he came to be sitting in front of you all tonight, being this reaching excellence guide and mentor. And so, Akhtar, over to you. What exactly is reaching excellence?
Thank you, Jane. Well, reaching excellence really is about having an attitude and I guess the mindset as well as the skill set of becoming the best version of yourself. And it's not just really about entrepreneurship. This is about being the best version of yourself so you can live your best life in all contexts. So it's about, having your business the way you want to have it, having your career the way you want to have it, having your relationships, parenting, everything so we can reach excellence, we can live our best life. I know through, I guess, my own personal experiences, there's been times where I've had, I guess, what a lot of people and a lot of people in society deem is success. And I was, from a material point of view, I was very successful, but spiritually and emotionally, I was very, very poor, and my life wasn't completely balanced. So some personal experiences made me kind of evaluate life. And that's what really made me realize you have to really get to a point where you're living your best life in all contexts, all values of your life. So that's really where I guess reaching excellence came from. It's just part of my own personal journey, really.
Yeah. And of course, it's often very difficult for people to achieve that balance, isn't it? Because we've all been in a situation where things are perhaps going incredibly well professionally, but falling apart personally, or vice versa. That's very, very common, because when we're putting energy into one area, then we're perhaps taking our eye off the ball in others. And that is something that I've certainly experienced, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners have as well. So how do you actually maintain focus across all of those different areas of your life and work towards maintaining excellence in all of them? What's the trick or secret?
Yeah, good question. So let's start off with what you said, initially, which is how do you maintain balance? Well, let me tell you first off, I have, through bitter experience, been very unbalanced. I was a very successful property entrepreneur. I was making more money than, I could spend. I was kind of riding the crest of a wave, but it came at a price. It cost me a relationship. It cost me time with my kids. I thought I was doing what I should have been doing, which is going out there, hustling, doing deals. We kind of taught as entrepreneurs that we should be out there like going out there, hammer and tongs, doing stuff, chasing wealth, chasing money. But really, what are we chasing? We're actually looking for happiness, but we can get so out of balance at times. So for me personally, it was the cost. The cost for me was cost, it was a relationship breakup and then becoming a single parent. And, when you go through a relationship breakup, it's not just the pain of the breakup, but you have that shattered dream of what you were hoping your family would be like. And then you had all the, I had all the fears of, I'm now going to be a part-time dad. I had 2 young daughters. My kids were very young at the time. They were like 1.5 and 5. And, this whole life I was trying to build for me and my family, the whole thing just shattered. And I remember being in such pain around this whole situation that I remember thinking, look, I've really screwed up here. I was so totally out of balance. And my ex-partner told me, but I just wouldn't listen at the time because I was so caught up in the narrative and the belief system of entrepreneurs. So sometimes you have to crash and burn, and it's through those painful experiences you go through what's called post-traumatic growth. You have this traumatic experience, you have this kind of big realization, life, the universe humbles you, and then you kind of readdress things. Now, fortunately for me, I was in quite a fortunate position. I was able to take some time off. I retired for 4 years. I'd built a successful portfolio, and I spent that time nurturing the relationship with my children. So I kind of became a I guess, a full-time dad when I had my kids. So I swapped a briefcase with property contracts and documents and so forth that I used to have with me when I used to go out and sign up people for deals, to like a nappy changing bag with like, baby wipes and Pampers. And it was a really big shift. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, like, I've been missing out on this. I've been missing out on this time with my children, which was precious. And this is all they wanted. My kids didn't come to me and go, Dad, how much money you've got? They said, Dad, when can we go to the park? Dad, can we do this? Dad, can you come and sit with me? And that was like the thing that was probably heartbreaking for me, to realize I hadn't been spending the time I needed with my children. And actually, that was what I got caught up in. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It's for my family. But actually what was going on was what I thought they needed, what I thought they wanted, and what they actually needed was two separate things. So my life kind of imploded for a little while. And that was when I just realized I'm not living life according to my values. Things are out of balance. And that's when I had to redress things and actually just start to kind of get that balance of being with my kids. So for me, it was like going from one extreme to the other. It was like working like a Trojan for a few years, building my wealth. And then it was like taking a few years off. And then it comes to a point now where it's like, how do I do both? Okay. And that's really about having the right mindset and also having the right systems in place, because it's so easy as an entrepreneur to think you got to do everything, that you're indispensable, that, other people can't do stuff as good as you. You have to get out of that way of thinking and trust people to kind of do things for you and leverage your time. Now, that's really the key for it, for me anyway.
Brilliant. And Akhtar, we've had so many interesting conversations over the years because we're both very, very passionate on the topic of relationships, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Akhtar? And so I'd love, with your permission, just to go back to where it all began with you. So tell us about where you grew up, what your family environment was like, how you evolved really as into the person that you are now.
Absolutely. So my beginnings were really quite challenging. So I grew up in a single parent family. We grew up in a council estate in East London. My parents were immigrants. Dad came over from Bangladesh and lived in the East End of London. My mum was from Sri Lanka. And it was tough. It was a tough grind for them. But they got divorced when I was about 5 years of age. And I grew up in a single parent family. But that wasn't the tough part. The tough part was my mum had mental health challenges. So it was a violent and abusive environment. You're walking on eggshells all the time. And, I was the eldest of five. So I had a lot of responsibility. So, at the age of 5, I was told that I was the man of the house. I had to take care of everyone, take care of my mum. So I didn't really get to be a kid. I had this responsibility that kind of forced me to grow up. So that was kind of what it was like growing up. And although my parents had been divorced for a number of years, they were at each other. They were like cat and dog. They'd fight with each other. They'd be, taking us in and out of court. And I think I got to about the age of 15, and my parents had this almighty like battle in court, and it really tore us apart. They couldn't see what they were doing. And as a kid, I went off the rails. I went off the rails big time. I kind of just gave up at school. I didn't know how to handle the emotions that I was going through. And I got kicked out of school. I ended up hanging out with all the dropouts. I ended up going out and smoking weed and partying and doing all that stuff that I thought was fun. And at the time, I couldn't really see what I was doing, but it was just my way of coping with and numbing the pain that I was in. And I eventually got some jobs, but I had no qualifications, no skills, no nothing. So what could I do? I had like crappy job after crappy job. I worked in a Indian restaurant as a waiter. I worked in Sainsbury's. I ended up delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizzas. Life was pretty crap back then for me. And, the highlight of my life was going out partying. So I ended up going out partying at the weekend. Now, bear in mind, this was back in the early 90s. So back then, the rave scene, the whole rave thing was what was going on. So I was going out raving. Now, it was very easy for me to escalate from smoking weed to, taking ecstasy. And that was kind of my drug of choice. And it was another way of escaping the pain. It was another way of escaping the crappy life that I was living. And, one day I partied a little bit too hard. I nearly OD'd on ecstasy. And that was the wake up call for me, because, when your life flashes before your eyes, you kind of wake up and go, hang on, what am I doing here? Why am I messing around with the people I'm messing around with? And it was at that point I decided I had to kind of level up. I knew that I was better than what I was doing and the people I was hanging around in. I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just knew that there was something better for me. It was at that point I decided to kind of work and like, kind of level my life up, so to speak. So I ended up kind of taking a management job, and, I ran the pizza store I was in. And eventually I became a mechanic, and I got into the motor trade, and I had various businesses, and I ended up eventually getting involved in property. But it took me time. I ended up meeting a landlord when I was quite young, and I actually rented a property from him. And I remember when he first came around to pick up the mail, I remember thinking he was the landlord's son because he was so young. And it took me a long time to get, money together and to be able to furnish this place. So when this young guy that kind of knocked on the door one evening to pick up his mail was there, and he was like, about a year or two older than me, it really rattled me. I was like, how the hell is this guy my landlord? What I found out was that he inherited some money. He went and borrowed some more money from his father, and he went and bought a property from auction, refinanced it, pulled all his money back out, and, became a landlord. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I then learned he repeated this process like 4 or 5 times, had 5 properties. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to go become a landlord. But it took me 10 years to buy my first property. And the reason for that is because all of the stuff that I had growing up in terms of my childhood, all that stuff creates trauma. When you're in a situation where you don't get your needs met, you're in that kind of abusive environment, you end up having limiting beliefs about yourself, limiting beliefs about your self-worth, your abilities and what you can do. And you end up having a series of core wounds about yourself. So what that really meant was I knew I could do it, but part of me was sabotaging myself, or I wouldn't take action. I would kind of go around in circles. Eventually, I did manage to get my first property, and it took me, I think it took me about 8 years to buy 3 properties. And it was at that point I was doing things the old way. It was a very slow way of, raising deposits, saving up, and it was very slow. And I wasn't educated at that time in terms of property. I was just doing the things that everyone else was doing, which was watching programs like Homes Under the Hammer. I think there was Property Ladder. So I knew those very vanilla strategies. And then in 2010, something happened which really kind of shook my world upside down. A very close friend of the family passed away, and it was very sudden and very tragic. And she left behind 3 young kids and, and a loving husband, and the family were absolutely devastated. And this was really close to home because I started to see the pain that these kids were going through, losing their mum, and it brought up my pain of not having a parent around, And at the time I had, my first daughter, she was about 2.5. And that experience made me think, I haven't done enough as a man. I haven't achieved enough, and I need to level up my life. And it was at that point I decided to get onto a property mastermind, because it was the only way I was going to do stuff. I was working a job. I was commuting from London to Kent and backwards and forwards. It was 90 minutes every day, 2 or 3 hours if I got stuck on the M25. I was literally just keeping my head above water financially. And it was quite a scary time. When you've got a kid and you've got a young family and you've got that kind of responsibility, and you can't make the kind of money you want, you can't kind of give your family what you really want to give them. As a man, I kind of felt really inadequate. So this experience, plus my, looking at my situation, was what kind of propelled me to go and join this property mastermind. And at that mastermind, I kind of got myself around the right kind of people, right kind of mindset, people who wanted to take action. And I was like a man on a mission. It was the pain of, I guess, my past, the pain of seeing my friend's wife die, and also the pain of what could happen to my partner. I remember thinking, what would happen to her and my daughter if I wasn't around? Would they survive? It was actually the wrong question. It's how, they'd struggled. They really would have struggled, both financially and emotionally, without me. So that kind of strapped a rocket to my backside. I went and learned. I kind of like pushed myself to learn everything there was to learn. And in that year, I went out and I bought 9 properties individually. I set up 2 letting agencies, and I bought a portfolio of 12. And I basically got myself into a position where we were financially free. And that just changed everything, because then we was in a position where we could really enjoy our time together as a family. It took all that pressure off. And also I felt like a little bit peace of mind that if anything did happen to me, that we had enough assets to make sure that my family were taken care of. So that's where it started. A year later, I started mentoring other people, and then I've been running masterminds for about the last decade. But alongside that journey, I think when I got to the point where I, had my kind of episode with ecstasy, it was at that point I realized the thing that was very different between successful people and the people I was hanging around with is that successful people thought differently. They thought differently, they acted differently. So from that time onwards, I was also studying psychology. I trained in neuro-linguistic programming. I became a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I studied psychotherapy and all kinds of other modalities for change, because partly I wanted to fix myself. I wanted to spit out a lot of the limiting beliefs I had. I wanted to understand how I could get into my mind and free myself from the matrix that I was stuck in. So the more I kind of upgraded my mindset, the more successful I became. And, I worked with various mentors over the years, and that's really where we got to. And then I guess in the last couple of years, when I was mentoring a lot of people, especially in property and wealth creation, one of the things that I realized is that, just making money in and of itself isn't enough. You don't just want to be financially free, you actually want to be emotionally free as well, because I've had a ton of money before and not been happy. So you need to have both. You need to have that kind of financial freedom, you also need to have that emotional freedom, and you need to have a balance in all areas of your life, so you're living life according to your values. That's how I define living life on your terms.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful, Akhtar. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And what an incredible journey, and what an amazing result to have done all of that in 1 year. I know that you won that mastermind, didn't you? And quite rightly so.
Yeah, it was a fun mastermind. I think the thing, there was a better your best at the end of the year, kind of normal thing you find at a mastermind. Won an Audi and everything else. It was a great triumph, if you like. But the key thing for me was the biggest success really was breaking through the limitations of my own mind and the conditioning that I had through my childhood. One of the things that happens is, and not many people understand this, but as a child, from the first 6 years of a child's life, they are going through a stage of psychological imprinting. It's a survival mechanism. So if you go back thousands of years ago, and this is all based on evolutionary psychology, a child's first 6 years of its life, they're in what's called a hypnagogic trance. It means their mind is open. They're like complete sponges. They absorb everything around them because they learn how to fit in and function in society. So it sets up that blueprint. So, where you lived, how your parents treated you, the environment that you was in, that sets up the blueprint for life. Now, if you were fortunate, you had loving parents, you were in the right postcode, you had a privileged upbringing, and great, that becomes the blueprint for your adult life. If you're in a dysfunctional family, you grew up in a war zone, or there's traumatic experiences, that creates the blueprint for your life. So to be able to get over that stuff and to be able to break through that is probably the biggest achievement out of that. The financial freedom and the wealth is great, but actually to be able to break through those limitations of your mind and to be able to level up in that way, that's probably the biggest achievement.
Yeah, and you're going to be inspiring a lot of people, Akhtar, who are watching or listening to this, because so many people have those limiting beliefs and those challenges that come from their early years. And I know I did as well. And we've talked about that in the past. And it can be very, very difficult to actually break out and believe yourself capable of just, as you said, being the very best version of yourself, right?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we do now when it comes to some of the mentoring that we do is we don't just teach people property and business strategies. The biggest thing that we teach people is to understand the psychology of what happens. The minute you do something that takes you out of your comfort zone, it's going to bring all your stuff to the surface. It's going to bring out your limiting beliefs. It's going to bring out bits of your core wounds, those thoughts of, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy. Even if you're not conscious of this stuff is there in the background. So when it comes to implementation of strategies, which is one of the things that we do, we can teach people what the strategy is, but 90% of what we do is we help people to navigate the difficult psychological and emotional changes that people go through and the challenges that they go through. And especially with what's going on right now with the whole pandemic and the recession, there's a lot of people going through some really difficult times. And if we can help people to understand this is normal, this is natural, for people to go through this. And one of the biggest things with entrepreneurs is we all want to look like we're infallible. We always want to look like we're smashing it out of the park and we're successful. The reality of it is we've got masks on, because a lot of times we kind of base our self-worth on our success. If our business is successful and we're doing well and everything's great, we feel great. The minute we're not, we take it so personally, because it's like it's a reflection of ourselves.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we encourage people to do inside our academy is to just drop the mask. There's no BS. You can show up however you show up and actually talk about what's really going on. So people end up coming up and going, hang on, look, I'm actually struggling in my business right now, or I've got a cash flow problem, or I've got a staffing issue, or hey, look, my kid's going off the rail right now, or I'm working a lot and my wife is like, at me, or, hey, I've decided to go into property full time. My husband doesn't quite like it because, things have changed. And if we don't deal with those kind of things, they're interferences from us progressing in our business. So we have to take a holistic approach.
Yes, indeed. And I know that a couple of years ago, Akhtar, you and I, well, you encouraged me, but we both got involved in should we say, a movement that was really all about connection, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we are both obsessed with the topic of relationships and connection as well. And of course, connection, it starts off with your connection with yourself. But it's also about how you connect and how you communicate with other people, and that thing about taking off the mask and actually being, if you like, sort of naked, emotionally in front of other people, and the power of that. I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to say about that. Obviously, we just touched on it, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the times we put these masks on as defense mechanisms, because what are we really afraid of, right? We're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of being criticized. We're afraid of the things that we deep down inside believe. We're afraid that our limiting beliefs might be true, that we're not enough, we're not good enough. Whatever it is that we were conditioned to believe, right? We don't want to kind of get in touch with the pain of that. So we put these masks up, we put these fronts up to kind of protect ourselves and survive. They're coping mechanisms. That's what they are. So to unmask yourself, it's like taking off the armor, right? It's like really, like how a puppy will roll over and expose its soft underbelly. It's incredibly vulnerable. So that's why we do it. But the thing is this: if you want to progress and if you want to grow, you need to find someone. It doesn't have to be loads of people, but you need to find someone that you can trust implicitly, that isn't going to judge you, that isn't going to criticize you, that isn't going to say, well, I told you so, you should have done this. What we really need is to be around people who can just accept us for where we are in the moment, with whatever's going on in our life or in our business, and just listen to us and be there and just hold that space for us. Because what that allows you to do is to drop the mask. And when you can drop the mask, it gets us past denial, which is a coping mechanism for us to stop us from feeling the pain that we're in. And it's only when you lean into the stuff that's going on in your life right now, you got to lean into the fear, you got to lean into the pain, lean into whatever it is you're going. That's when you're going to come out the other side. A lot of times people want to avoid that pain. They kind of want to avoid the discomfort and distract themselves. The problem with that is you swept it under the carpet. You haven't really dealt with what the issue is, and you're not going to grow. So you need to find out what it is that's underneath. And once you go to that place, and I encourage people when they come into our academy or if they work with me, let's just lean into that place. Now, that doesn't mean sit in a pit of pain or suffering and just wallow in it. It means go into it and look into it and go, what is there? What is this underneath the surface that's really causing you the suffering right now? It's normally a belief. And the thing that we have to understand is our beliefs generate our thoughts, okay? And our thoughts generate our feelings, and our feelings generate our actions. So if we can change that thought or uncover that thought, which is normally something that happened in the past that we haven't processed. Really, a trauma is actually just something that's unprocessed and unprocessed emotion. So if we can come up and bring that up to the surface and go, what is it I'm believing right now in this situation? And then ask yourself, is this absolutely true? Are you absolutely certain of this? Okay. And then we start to find counter evidence for that particular belief. That changes how you feel, and it gets you past that stuck place. And one of the things I say to people all the time, especially people who work with us or in our community, is on the other side of that fear, that pain, whatever that is that you're going through, is a universal God-given blessing, because you'll go through it and you'll become free of whatever it is that's causing you the pain and the suffering, and that's going to get you unstuck. So when it comes to implementing stuff in business or when it comes to property, a lot of time people get to a certain place and they get stuck. I call this the 4 phases of implementation. This is what people go through. So when people, let's say they go to a mastermind or they go to a workshop or something, they go through the euphoria phase, which is wow, great. I'm at this place, I'm at this course, I'm at this mastermind, and it's going to work. They get this full sense of achievement that it's going to work. They then go and do the work and go, hang on a second, this is a bit harder than what I thought. And they get met with resistance. And it's at this point, their limiting beliefs come up, fear kicks in, doubt kicks in. They get distracted by shiny penny syndrome, which is really just wanting to avoid the discomfort and move on to another strategy. but it's here, it's where people either give up or they just go back to what they're doing because it's more comfortable. But this is where you've got to lean in it, and you've got to push through it, and with the right support and understanding, you can break through. And once you break through, you go to that next step.
Very very yeah, I really
Yeah. And also, when you're going through that process, we spoke about relationships. You need to have the right kind of people around you. It's essential that you rally around the right kind of tribe. I know you've got a great community here, but you need to have people who are going to get you, understand you, but also who are going to understand you from an emotional point of view, because number one, they're awake enough, or they're conscious enough to understand this process, or they've been through it themselves, so they can support and encourage. And this is one of the beautiful things that we have inside of our academy. We have this very nice family environment that's really, really safe. There's no egos, there's no BS, but there's that safe environment, and it is all about the relationships. People feel really safe, and it's so beautiful to watch when you see people dropping their masks, kind of being a bit vulnerable, sharing what's really going on. And that's when they can really get the support that they need to get unstuck and move forwards. A lot of the time people suffer in silence, or they keep this stuff to themselves, and they just don't really progress. And they go around in circles, they don't progress, and they kind of wonder why. When when you've got those right kind of people around you, and you've got those people who can be almost unconditional in their acceptance of you and whatever you're going through, and they've got the wisdom to guide you, that's when you're going to progress, and that's when you're going to accelerate, and then you can keep leveling up and reaching your version of excellence, whatever that is, in whatever context of your life you're talking about.
Yeah, I know that was incredibly powerful for me when I actually really understood what authentic connection was all about, and that transformative power of just being able to tell your truth to somebody who is not going to judge you. But they also have the wisdom to really understand what you're talking about. It's not therapy, it's actually being in a community of like-minded people who all have the same, if you like, the protocols in terms of their behavior, and their acceptance and their openness. And that is the thing that for me, well, as I said, that was very, very different when you and I engaged, because a lot of these entrepreneurial groups or communities or masterminds or whatever, people are very competitive and they're very closed. I've encountered that as well. And that is really not helpful. So I think if you go into an environment where basically you're all chasing the same, the outcome, if you like, could be reaching excellence or any specific outcome. But if you really have that openness and that willingness to share in whatever's going on, it really is powerful. I think it's incredible. And have people who know how to listen properly, and they don't just jump in just because, something that she said now reminds me of something about myself. They actually listen, and they know how to listen and how to listen deeply. And I just love that. I just think it's so great. I've always had that with you, Akhtar.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is, on a call once, we had a group of people there, and people were sharing, and I had a call with one of my mentees beforehand, and she was thinking, she got into this kind of mindset that I'm the only person that is going through any challenges. She's looking on social media, and everyone looks like they've got their life together, because that's all they paint, that picture. And she's thinking everyone else has got their life together, but my life is a mess, and this is what she's going through. What I had to point out to her is, whenever you're going to go for any growth, there's always going to be some discomfort and some pain. It's not a straight line. There's always going to be course corrections. You're going to go through some turbulence. That's part of growth. That's part of change. You have to, if you want to go from point A to point B, you're going to have to change your belief system and your habits and the patterns of behavior and the actions that you take. That's not easy. It's not an easy process. It's not linear. It means that you're going to have to go through discomfort. You're going to have to go through like those old limiting beliefs surfacing and trying to pull you back. It's not an easy process. And as soon as I told her that, she was like, okay, I got it. Then we got on a call, and there are other people that started to share. And I was like, she just shared that to me beforehand. I wonder what she's going to say. And at the end of the call, she just said, you know what, like, this has made me realize that I'm more normal than I thought. I thought I was the only one that's going through this. And when you see other people that are going through stuff, it makes you realize you're not defective, you're not inadequate, there's nothing wrong with you. This is part of being a human being. Yeah. Once you understand how human beings work, whenever it comes to anything that's changed, any kind of change, we don't like it. We're hardwired not to like change. It's a survival mechanism. It comes back to when we were in caves. You stay inside the cave, right? You step out of the cave. Whatever looks familiar is safe. Anything unfamiliar represents death or danger. So stay in the cave. It's that cave. I call it caveman mindset. When I explain this to people, it's also in my book, The Code Reaching Excellence. If you understand that we're hardwired to do that, you can understand why when we get into situations that are uncomfortable, there's change, we go through that turbulence. We have to learn to override that. We have to learn to hack that and not let it hijack us. Otherwise, your brain, that part of your mind, just wants to keep you alive. That's it. It doesn't want you to thrive. It doesn't care. It just wants to keep you alive. So we have to learn to hack that and override that. And also, when you're in that situation where there's other people going through that stuff, people are openly going, hey, look, I got out of my comfort zone. I got scared when I went to, call this vendor. I got scared when I went to ask this person to invest with me. I didn't know what to do and I was uncomfortable. Everyone realized this is okay. This is part of being human. And I'm always very open with people that I work with or people in our academy, because, even though I know this stuff, I still go through it as well. I just know I'm going through it. I'm like, okay, here we are, a little bit of turbulence right now. But I know on the other side of it is there's a gift, there's a blessing, there's a level up that's going to happen in my life or my business or some area of my life. And if you can understand that, that's going to make that whole journey so much easier.
Oh, it really does. And I totally believe in the transformative power of connection. And I do think what you pointed out about that woman that felt very, very alone and very defective in a way is so common in our society. And the reason for that is simply because people don't know how to open up to other people. And they really do feel this thing that John Bradshaw is one of my favorite authors. He wrote this book called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And it's about carried shame and about effectively the shame that we have inherited from our family or people that have done things to us. And we walk around carrying it. And that makes us feel bad about ourselves, which is why we then don't reveal our true selves or our struggles or difficulties to other people. And so it leaves us feeling as though we are the only people in the world with these feelings. And once you actually talk openly about whatever those struggles are in a safe environment, then all of that goes away and you suddenly realize, hey, I am as good as all these other people. And, what I'm going through is normal. So, yeah, I totally get it. It's great.
It really is. When you can be in a group of people who are very accepting, or just have one person that's accepting, and you share stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable or vulnerable, and it will bring up those feelings of shame. We can often feel shame around our performance as entrepreneurs. Am I smashing it? Am I making bank? Am I making the money I want to make? And if we're not, or something doesn't go right, we feel, we can go to that place of not feeling enough, and then feelings of shame. But those feelings of shame, they've been conditioned, right? So we can uncondition that stuff. We can unlearn that stuff.
Yeah.
And when we see that we can be with someone or a group of people who can just go, yeah, I get it, and then we don't feel that shame, or we're not shamed, it rewires that in our brain. So you then learn it's not, we don't have to be afraid of whatever it is that we're going to reveal, because we're not going to be shamed. We don't have to feel shame around it. And it gets rid of all that shame, which actually holds us back. It holds us back because, it makes us fearful.
Yes. And Akhtar, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is another very, very common problem, isn't it, for entrepreneurs, is this thing about the people that we are surrounded with at home. So our families, our non-entrepreneurial friends, all the naysayers and the people who wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable taking the kind of risks or pushing themselves out there or working as hard or doing whatever it is that we do. And those kind of people, they might, with the very best of intentions, be very detrimental to our well-being. So how, if people that are listening or watching are in a situation, say with a significant other who is not supportive of their entrepreneurial activities, what advice would you give to them right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a common problem. I see it like all the time. Sometimes it's significant others, sometimes it's family members.
Mm.
So I'll split this into two answers. One of the things that will happen, this comes back, this there's, I guess there's two or three ways I'm going to answer this. Okay. The first thing is, if you're surrounded by people who don't get you and they don't understand what you're trying to do, you're likely going to be caught up in people who've got crab mentality. Okay. The group to stay as it is for their own benefit. The minute you go off accelerating and leveling up your life or your business, you're now operating in a sphere that they can't. And it's an unconscious kind of choice that they make, which is, well, if I can't have it, you can't have it. So they'll be like, Jane, why do you want to do that for? That's a crazy idea. And, you should do this instead. It's them trying to keep you in that sphere. Okay. It's mostly unconscious. The second scenario can be, group dynamics or family dynamics. Okay. You going off and doing something else can threaten the well-being and survival. And again, this comes back to this hardwired survival instinct. So, is Jane going to go off and, become a multi-billionaire? And, are you going to need me anymore? Are you going to be around for us anymore? There's all these kind of questions that people have that they're not always conscious, but these are some of the reasons that they can sabotage you. They can put doubt. And one of the patterns that I see is people come to me and go, look, my partner or my family, they're asking me all these questions because they don't understand things. They don't understand your business. They don't understand your property strategy. They don't understand what you're trying to do. So they're trying to understand it and they're asking all these questions. And the problem is all these questions start to make you question yourself and, oh, am I doing the right kind of thing? So I think it's important that you restrict what you say to people. And, you've got to be really firm with people and not let them dissuade you from doing what you want to do. The other thing you spoke about, significant others. So one of the things that I do as part of my coaching process is to help people navigate the difficulties and the fear and all the challenges that come up when it comes to implementing or putting business strategies in place. You need to have a massive reason why, because if your reason why isn't big enough, then your excuses will be. So part of the process that I go through is I help people to create a really compelling vision for life. And I say to people when I'm mentoring them, look, your business is not the end goal. It's the vehicle to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. And where you want to be is living your best life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you want to be a playboy and you want to be sailing around the world, or you want sports cars, helicopters, that's what you want to do. If you're happy to kind of plod along and, have country walks and, spend time with your kids or whatever, go on holidays. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. If you want to go off and do stuff for charities, whatever is your best life, that's what needs to be in your compelling vision. So I sit down with people and I get them to create a very compelling vision that's aligned to their core values. Okay. I've worked with loads of people that come to me and go, I've got this great vision board. I've got a Ferrari on it. I've got this house on it. I've got these handbags and all this stuff on it. And I go, great. Let's go through your core values. And once I elicit their core values, which is asking them what's really important to them, quite often what's on their vision board doesn't line up with their core values. It's stuff that they think they want to have because everyone else says it's good, or everyone else in their sphere, wants to have the Ferrari or the Lambo or whatever it is. But actually what their core values is something completely different. So once you get to the point where you've aligned your vision to your core values, then the next thing is you want to be taking that to your significant other. So I've sat down and worked with couples and they've said to me, look, my partner's really not on board with this. And I'm like, look, okay, fine. I want your partner to come and get involved in this process. So your business doesn't just bring in money or wealth. It actually supports you and your significant other or your family to have a compelling vision for everyone. Now, once you go through that process and your spouse is bought into that, oh, actually, he or she is out working because they're going to go and bring us the money and the resources so we can have this thing that we want for our family, this thing that we want for our children, this thing that we want to give back to a particular charity. Once you're both bought in and it's aligned to your values, most spouses, I've never, so far, touch wood, I haven't had a spouse that's not been on board. So that's what you need to do. You need to create alignment. If there is a lack of alignment between you and your spouse and your goals, then they're going to see that your business is taking them, or what you're doing is taking away from their time and their needs. So you need to make sure that they can see the benefit in what you're doing that's going to help them as well as you.
Yeah. And having been on one of your calls, Akhtar, you've actually got quite a few couples in your program, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got a few couples there, and like, you know, what happens is when they go through this process, they really become very aligned. They become like power couples, you know. They work together, they work really well. There's one couple out, I have in mind. They just work really, really well together. And you know, all the little things that can be squabbles or little things that can be kind of points of contention, they just go, because what you're doing is when you've got an aligned vision as a couple, and your business and what you're doing together is for a greater purpose, and you're both bought into that, it then doesn't matter who does what, because it's just in a division of labor. If someone is looking after the children and spending more time with the children so the other partner can work, it's not like, well, you're going out and do your job and I'm stuck at home with the kids. It's actually, look, you're going out and doing this for us as a family, as a collective, because, for the greater good of everyone. So that's one of the things that happens. And I've seen this happen, like, time and time again, but you have to be bought into the vision, and the vision has to accompany both parties' values. So it meets everyone's needs.
So Akhtar, tell us about your academy, and where did the idea of your academy come from, and what does your academy actually do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea for my academy came probably just over a year ago. I decided that, I'd gone through, I guess as an entrepreneur, I'd gone out and I'd built wealth for myself. I then went out and I helped other people to build wealth. So one of the first masterminds that I ran, I was very much thinking, okay, this is great. I've done well as an entrepreneur in property. Let me go out and teach other people to do it. And I just saw this as another business model. And the problem with that is the kind of people that turned up were the kind of people who wanted to just make more money. And I thought, that's okay, but actually that's not enough, because I know deep down inside that just making more money isn't the solution. It's not going to solve everything. And what I wanted to do is to actually have a place that was holistic. So it wasn't just about property. It wasn't just about business. It was about mindset. It was about, dealing with emotional mastery. It's about dealing with relationships, because I wanted to have a place where people could come, a safe space where they could learn, they could grow, they could do their business stuff together, but they could also come and get help and support when it came to the emotional stuff, when it came to conflict with their spouses, or, conflict with their other relatives. And that's what I wanted to do. And I think for me personally, it's really my way of giving back. Not everyone can afford to go on to, high ticket masterminds. And I believe what we've got, in terms of our model of doing things, is very unique and very different. And I think I wanted to just make it very low cost and affordable for people to just come into an environment, for them to learn, for them to grow, for them to be able to have access to courses as part of that monthly subscription, where if I can get someone unstuck and just take that next step forwards, that might not necessarily want to come onto a large high ticket mastermind, then I've helped that person. And the kind of people, because of my values and what I'm about, the kind of people that come to me tend to be, people who've got families, people who want to do good, people who want to help other people. So if I can help one person who wants to help someone else, then it has this ripple effect. So this is kind of my way of giving back. And it was the best place for me to be able to serve a large number of people and share my knowledge, my skill, and support those people. So that's where the academy came about. So in there, we teach property. We obviously teach business stuff. There's a really nice, like, safe, supportive community in there of people. And people can show up in any way they need to. We have these kind of coaching calls where people get on, they just drop the masks, and we kind of celebrate your wins. We talk about your challenges, and people can drop the masks as well, and they can talk about the deeper stuff that's going on. And it's just a really safe space where people can kind of get past their stuck points and just keep doing the work and leveling up. We also hold people accountable. So, what are you up to? What have you done? And if people don't get stuff done, we don't berate them. We're like, actually, what you stuck with and how can we help you to overcome it? So that's what it's like. It's a really nice, safe community. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a place where I could really help people holistically in all areas of their life. And that's why we put it together.
Amazing. So if I can just ask, Akhtar, how much would it cost for people to join and to be a part of the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's we've got a special kind of offer at the moment, because we've only just kind of opened the doors out to people to join. It's £60 a month. It's gym membership money. Okay. What you get for that would be weekly calls. The way the academy works, it's like a Facebook group, but it's not on Facebook. So we have our own app. You can download the app. We've got people that come in, experts that come in and do workshops. We've got training videos, mainly property trading videos. You can ask anything. So there's a lot of support. It's a very holistic approach. That's what it costs. It's gym membership money. So it's pretty affordable for everyone. And we've also got a 14-day free trial coming up. Well, actually, it's live now. So there's a 14-day free trial. So it's no-brainer money. You come in, you try it out. There's no contract or anything. We actually want the right kind of people to come along, because the people that are in there, the kind of people that are contributors, they'll come in, they'll support, they become part of the family, so to speak. So it's important that we have the right kind of people come in, and it's also about doing the work. It's not a place for dabblers. You can't really come and stick your toe in the water. That's not what it's about. I'm really passionate about helping people to progress, and get unstuck. So, I'm really quite strict on who comes in. I really want people who want to level up, who are serious about doing it. And, myself and the team will bend over backwards to support people who really want it, especially people who are stuck, who are going through challenges right now, because there's a lot of challenges out there right now. It's affecting businesses, it's affecting people, it's affecting people's morale. So we just wanted to make it very affordable and easy for the right kind of people to come in, to get the support they need, to be able to do their work that they need to do. I love it when I hear people come back to me and say, look, I took that bit of advice that you gave me and we put this into practice and it's helped us, or we've got unstuck. That is so rewarding for me, because I know what it's like to be stuck. I know what it's like to be in those pain points. I've been there, I've done it. As much as I've been successful, I've had some big failures and I've had a load of pain points in my life. So when I see people stuck, I want to help them. And especially one of the things that is like my pet peeves is when I see people being sold courses or workshops and masterminds that promise the earth but don't deliver. These people are just trying to get ahead in life. They're just trying to get unstuck. They're just trying to do better for them and their loved ones. We want to help those people, and that's why I'm kind of saying here, it's only really for people who are serious about doing their work,
Yeah, and I think it's great, particularly for early stage property entrepreneurs, because as you said, there are a lot of very, very slick marketing machines out there that will take a lot of money from people who are just very, very new and very green to that whole industry. And the thing is, it's not an industry for anybody who is going to just have a dabble and then walk away. It very much requires a long-term perspective, and to put one foot forward day after day after day, just keep going consistently and push through a lot of challenges, because it is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would be financially free. It's actually very tough in the early days. And so I think the idea of actually having consistent support rather than going and doing some weekend course or something is a really good one. That's what I like about it.
Absolutely. And that is the difference. It's not, it's not a course where people just show up. It's actually about turning up, learning how to do the work, and also learning how to overcome the things that are stopping you from doing the work. That's what we're really about. That's kind of our slogan, really. It's about doing the work so you can level up and reach your version of excellence.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Akhtar. It's been such a pleasure to have you here tonight.
It's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Always great to connect with you. And I just wanted to say thank you to some of our listeners as well that have been live. So we've got Dan, we've got Jeffrey, Leo, it's great to see you. So I'm just having to peep over here. We've got Jitesh. Okay, and yeah, Jitesh has actually got a question for you, Akhtar.
Yeah,
And
please.
who were your mentors?
I've had many mentors. Is there a specific area that you want me to talk about, Jitesh? Whilst you're coming back to it, I've had many mentors. So I've had many mentors in property. I've had many mentors in when it comes to mindset. So there's a lot of mentors. I'm a big believer in investing in yourself. I mean, I've probably spent somewhere around about 400 grand on my education, because I've always got a good return on investment. So, I've worked with various mentors in psychology when it comes to NLP. So if Jitesh can be a little bit more specific as to which area, I'll be happy to share with it. Otherwise, I'll be reeling loads of people off.
Well, Jitesh and I have actually been working together on my accelerators, which is to do with finding your ideal investor.
Ah,
So yeah, he's a property guy, and I know that I'm sure that he would love to have a conversation
Uh,
with John. I'm
I'd
sure.
love to. I'd love to. So now I know Jitesh's property. So I've worked, back in the day, sort of 10, 12 years ago. Some of my early mentors were people like Parmdeep Videsha, Hanif Khan, Richard Shepherd, just to name a few. I've done a lot of the, a lot of the kind of courses that were out there back then with various people that aren't so public and visible now. So that's some of the people that I've done some property stuff with, Jitesh, if that's of help.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Akhtar, just once again, I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in and stuck with us. I hope you've enjoyed the interview, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon, I'm sure, Akhtar. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Take care,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.